Hello, everyone. This is your boy Apostle T. Terrence Townsend, Coach T. I go by a lot of different names. Just make sure when you call me right. Amen. And so, hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast right here on WisdomWorx. That is WisdomWorx 2.0. That's the name of our company. We are a consulting firm. We focus on helping you to become the best business owner, the best individual, the best person that you can be, especially when it comes to being fiscally responsible, uh, dealing with stewardship. We deal with character development. We deal with a lot of different areas in order to help you to become all that you can be, especially when it comes to your money, making sure that you always keep more in your pocket than you give it out. So we always want to help you in that. And so today is no different. Today we are actually on either part 3 or part 4, man. Talking about this credit. We've been talking about credit, and really, it's really talking about good credit versus bad credit. But more than anything, we're talking about the Bible, the biblical wisdom that we find on credit. And so today I want to start off really like we've been starting off each episode. I do want to just kind of give you the core scriptures, the scriptures that have really defined the right traits of people who know how to utilize credit the right way. We have a lot of people out there that are talking about credit and talking about how to gain credit. And the thing is that I'm not a credit guy. I want you to gain wealth. I want to help you to become wealthy. And not just, on, quick, fast, in a hurry, not, fooling the algorithm, anything like that. I want you to be able to realize the full potential that you have, to realize everything that you need in order to succeed in this world is already a part of your hand, is already part of your system, or is in your control. That's the main thing I want you to see. I want you to realize that everything that you can be, everything that you will be, is already been equipped in you, it's already been invested in you. But we have to understand that with that investment, there has to be a willingness to chase after knowledge. There has to be a willingness to chase after the understanding of how things work. There has to be understanding of the tools and the technology. There has to be some other knowledge in place in order for you to be able to utilize that to the fullest, and well, not just knowledge, but also character. There has to be self-discipline. There has to be some things that are intangible, so to speak, but just as effective and impactful on making sure that you can gain everything that you want to gain, but also keeping it in the right perspective. Knowledge is great. You can't touch knowledge unless you pick up a book. I mean, if a book was considered knowledge, then it'd be great. We all probably be walking around with books, but it's not the book, but it's what's inside of the book. That is the important part, and the words that are on every page that cause us to grow in knowledge and understanding of certain things. So we have to be those people that are willing to do what it takes to put in the effort in order that we can benefit, and our lives can benefit, our families can benefit, our generations can benefit from the things that we gain. And I'm telling you this: it's never too late to be able to start your journey toward wealth, to start your journey toward growth and independence. It's never too late to establish yourself and to establish your pattern and focus on growth. It's never too late for any of that. So I definitely want to encourage you to continue to watch every week right here on Engage Weekly, in order that we can help you to succeed and to find the success that you've been chasing. All right. And so again, we want to go ahead and start off with the scriptures that kind of set our baseline. This is our launching pad. This is the foundation for everything that we talk about in this particular series of biblical wisdom on credit. And so first scripture is coming out of Proverbs chapter 22 and verse number 7. It says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. We have to understand that as a borrower, we are the slave to those people that lend us money, that lend us anything. I'm not just going to say money, that lend us anything. And so, we become those people that are the labor force for those folks and getting them richer. They're gaining wealth off of our backs, off of our hard work. And you never want to be that person to help someone else get rich off of your back, off of your hard work. You always want to be in the position to where you can establish your journey, establish how you're going to acquire wealth and make the money work for you rather than you having to work so hard for the money. All right. Our next scripture is coming out of Romans chapter 13, verse number 8. And it reads, owe no man anything except love each other. You don't want to owe anybody anything except for love, and that's the thing, the important thing about us and the important emphasis that the Bible really gives us as far as instruction is concerned, to love one another, to love your brother as yourself, to encourage one another, to build people up higher than yourself, to pour into people. In fact, the word fellowship, it actually means that, for me to pour into you and for you to pour into me, and we both grow together. That's love, and that's what we have to do. That's our charge from God, to love one another. The way that Christ loves us is what we always want to think about. Christ loved us so much that he gave his life for us, died on the cross for us, rose from the grave for us. He did everything. He took on the challenge of the enemy and he overcame. That's in John 16:33. So it's a lot of things, guys, that each one of us have to realize, is that the expectation that God has for us is often greater than the expectation that we have for ourselves. The expectation that God has for us is often greater, and without a doubt, it is greater than the expectation that we have for ourselves. In fact, the Bible says that my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. My ways are higher than your ways. He also says that my thoughts toward you are great, and to give you peace and a good results, a good success. That's God's plan for us, but it's up to us to walk that thing out. Now, Luke chapter 14, verse 28, it says, for which you desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost. So again, when it comes to us assigning or accepting credit, we have to be those folks who understand that there's going to be a cost. Then we have to realize and go in there with both eyes open, realizing that anytime that we go into a credit agreement, go into a credit contract, there's a cost. It's going to cost us more than it costs the people giving us credit. You hear me? It's always going to cost the borrower more than it costs the lender. The lender is, and think about it, if you think about it, the lender is literally getting free money off of interest, from you, again, from your hard work. So you need to be sure to count the cost. Are you going to be able to handle the debt that you're accruing? Are you going to be able to handle the things that are coming at you? Are you going to be able in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, to make sure that house is paid off? You understand what I'm saying? That, so it's certain things that we have to always take into account before we go into any kind of agreement where that we have to take out credit, where credit is at the core of that agreement. We have to count the cost. Now, and then the last scripture comes out of Psalm 37 and 21. And this one really dictates us who we are. It helps, it kind of identifies where our heart is in a matter. It says, the wicked borrows but doesn't pay back, but the righteous is generous and gives. And so this is, we have to understand when it talks about wicked, I think I explained this last week, it talks about wicked. Wicked is an act that you can do. And it's wickedness is something that's performed, or wickedness is something that's comes down the pipe. Evil is the intention of is found in the intention of men's heart. You hear me? Wickedness is the thing that you do that is against God's plan, against God's will, or with evil motivations, evil intentions. The act or the evil as it comes out as you do it, that's wickedness. You hear me? And so wickedness is something that we don't want to be a part of. Not only that, we don't want the reward of the wicked, those folks who do evil, and the sad part is that a lot of those folks may be a part of our families, maybe a part of our businesses, maybe a part of our churches, maybe in our friend circle, and they just do wicked. I remember when we was coming up, there was this kid that he just used to do stuff, just mean stuff to people. That's wickedness, because it was out of the abundance of his heart. And we have to understand that, even when we're talking and dealing with people, when it comes to wickedness, we have to watch our words. We cannot just let people know what's on our heart. Oh, I just got to get that off of me. That's a lie from the devil. You are choosing to operate in wickedness toward whoever that is that you are sharing that with. Don't be that person that destroys other people because it makes you feel better. Oh, it's off my chest, and then that's on you. Again, that's wickedness. So you have to be better than that. Your charge is to be a person that walks uprightly, that walks in righteousness, that makes sure that you are doing the right thing by other folks. My grandmother used to say it like this, is that, treat folk right on the way up, because you'll have to deal with them again on the way back down. So we cannot be a people who operate in wickedness, and borrowing money and not paying it back is a wicked act. We can't be that people. We have to be a people who are giving, who are generous, people who are acknowledging the blessing that God has on our life. And more than anything, we have to be a people that learns how to be content. I need to add that scripture. We have to be content, like Paul said, content, operate in contentness, be satisfied with where we are. And we'll revisit that in a moment. And so those are the 4 scriptures that we are dealing with in this particular study. And so I just want to real quick just hit the highlights of what we talked about. We talked about the types of credit: revolving credit, installment loans, open credit, and secured versus unsecured credit. So definitely go back and take a look at those other episodes where we actually go into deeper discussions on that. We also talking about the best uses of credit, and we talked about that. Talked about how the best uses are, building a credit history, buying a home, education loans, business investments, and definitely for emergencies. You want to make sure that you are have money set aside for emergencies, because there are some reasons that credit is good. Again, building a good credit history is good, because there are some jobs you can't even get if you have bad credit. So, you don't want to go to school for 12 years and, become a lawyer or a doctor or something. And they say, well, man, your credit is too bad. You can't practice at this hospital. But we don't know. We can't trust you around the drugs. We can't trust you with your credit. We can't trust you around the medicine. lawyer, we can't trust you with this. Hey, there's no way. So you have to make sure that your credit history is good. Which means that utilize credit only for the things that make a difference. In school loan, it's a good way to utilize credit because again, you're gaining something for that, and it's okay. You do have to be cautious. Don't necessarily allow yourself to get caught up with some of these other loans that are one-off loans. Deal with Sally Mae or some of these others that try to help you. But definitely school loans, buying a home is absolutely and I look at any type of investment in real property as a great investment. That's buying a home, buying land. And when I say real property, I mean, real estate type of property. Those types of things are excellent uses of credit. You first, definitely want to make sure you can pay it off. You get the best interest rates on real property. But also, once those things are paid off, they become a collateral component, a component where you can utilize it, that asset as collateral later on, and it's an asset. It can, with taxes, it can be depreciated, and man, it's so much you can do with that. So that's why I encourage those types of things, those types of uses of credit. Business investment, there's and I need you to hear me. There are different ways you can invest in business, and there are other, and you have to understand that when it comes to investing in business, it's usually, if you're just starting off in business, find you a solid business to invest in. I mean, if you could afford to buy a McDonald's franchise that usually run around $1 million, buy you a McDonald's franchise. Why? Because that you're gonna get the business, and it's gonna pay itself off. Chick-fil-A franchises, something like that. Buy into something that is a solid investment when you first start off utilizing credit for business. You hear me? Credit for business. If you are a farmer, you can get equipment loans and loans to rent equipment, loans to rent a tractor, that kind of deal. That's a great use of it, especially if you already know that this is what we do every year. We have a consistent year of this amount coming in, that amount coming in. So I know full well that by the end of this season, we'll have more than enough to make sure that we can make that payment and pay that loan off. Again, you have to know the business that you're getting in and make sure that is a solid investment. Again, when it comes to entrepreneurs or first-time business owners, I do not encourage you to necessarily utilize credit cards or anything that would be considered a high-risk type of credit. I would encourage you that if you have people that can help you, if you go by the SBA, find some people that can help you, as far as even family members that are willing to invest. But go by the SBA, get you a solid business plan, do the research. There's nothing wrong with holding your business off a month or two while you do the research to make sure that you know everything, the ins and outs of that business. In fact, I always encourage you that if you're going to get into a business, get a job at the place. Again, people from, that are lawyers and doctors, if I can use that example again. They intern. Most lawyers were paralegals, so they got a chance to learn about the law and how the law office work. Most, in fact, every doctor has to go in as an intern, so to speak, a doctor intern, or they have to learn the ins and outs. They have to, go in for at least a year to learn what the stuff. I don't want no brand new out of college doctor that hasn't gone through the training to doctor on me. I'm just saying, so that, so the medical industry understands that, and they make sure that the people know. So same thing. Your life is nothing to play with. Time is the one resource that we don't have plenty of, and it cannot be restored. So take the time to utilize learning, getting the knowledge to the fullest. Take the time to do it. Again, if you have to wait a couple of months, cool. Learn those couple of months and jump into it, when you're ready. And then also, for emergency situations, if you have to use a credit, if there's an emergency, cool. Do what you got to do if you have to. Yeah, a lot of times, people have family members who pass away, and they have to use a credit card to catch a trip. Understandable. Cool. Even the credit card companies will work with you on some of that. The key is to communicate where the need is. Talk to the credit card company, say, hey, I have a bereavement that I have to get to. Is there a way that, we can, lower the interest on this particular purchase? Credit card companies will work with you. Believe it or not, they'll work with you on those kind of things. But the key is make sure that that you have communication with the financial institution that you're dealing with. Make sure that you are communicating those things. Whether you are going to have to take money out of savings or whatever. Again, if you don't have any savings, but all you have is your 401k and emergency, again, talk to them. They are real people too. So, they fully understood, and it's already in the works, in their rules of giving the reasons why they can and cannot give. And, again, make sure that you communicate with him on that. And the reason you want to make sure you communicate on that, because again, you don't want to get stuck with a high interest rate on, a trip that you had to have, or, something just odd. Don't don't go on vacation. Just make sure that you go there. And in many cases, you got to get a program to send it in. I'm not joking when I say that. You got to get a program or a newspaper, something that proves that you were there. All right. Now, we've talked about, some good uses. Now we're going to talk about the worst uses of credit. The worst uses of credit, you got high interest, consumer debt, which again, credit cards, payday loans. Oh man, payday loans. They were killing us. They are killing us. And especially in lower income communities, they ought to, all US, they ought to ban payday loan places from even being a part of that. You got personal loans or signature loans, and then with excessive rates. Again, those rates are crazy. And, you having to pay $300 on a $1,500 loan, and you pay $300, and all that was interest. Yeah, it's crazy. So you have to, you got to read the fine print, or just, title loans. Oh my goodness. They have you over a barrel, so it's just certain things that have to be, unfortunately, that are done, that we have to be aware of, so I definitely encourage you, stay away from those types of things. Unnecessary luxury purchases. Unnecessary, which, when it comes to cars, get you a car that's going to get you back and forth to work. Don't go out there and buy you a Hummer just to drive, 5 blocks to your job just so you can shine. You see what I'm saying? That's unnecessary use of credit. And you know what? You're going to be a slave until you pay that off. You feel what I'm saying? So it's certain things that, that you just should not do. Taking luxury vacations, a lot of people use their credit and they just go off on a whim and just go all over the world. Cool. You went all over the world. Now you got to pay for it, and again, my not against traveling, not against trips. I love it. Me and my wife went on a cruise last year. It was the bomb. diggity, if I can use that phraseology. But we still, it's something that we wanted to make sure that we could pay for. You understand what I'm saying? So we found the best rate. We planned it out, set aside a little change for the trip, and we were able to go on the trip. Same thing, guys. Anything that's worth having is worth waiting for. Trust me. So put the money aside, pay for it, cash if you can. Pay for it all cash, and then make sure that you enjoy yourself. but don't put yourself in debt behind those types of things. It's not even worth it. Some folks say, "Oh well, I can't save money because if the money is in my hand, if I can get to it, then I'm gonna spend it." Well, again, that's where self-discipline comes in. If you it's better for you to have self-discipline in the area of money all the way across the board, not just in your credit. You determine not to get credit, but you spend every dollar you get. You have to come up with a plan. There has to be a plan in place in order for you to be able to successfully cash in on life benefits. Let me say that again. There has to be money in place. You have to have the self-discipline to successfully cash in on life benefits. And life benefits only come with time. You hear me? With time. So saving money over time, you get life benefits. We'll talk about that at another time when we're talking about savings account, when we're talking about annuities, when we're talking about those things that are money builders and wealth builders. We'll talk about those things, but it takes time, and it's okay it's okay if you're working towards something. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not telling you to just work and save for you so you can be retired. No, I'm telling you to put that picture of that speedboat, or put that picture of that island, or that love boat, whatever it is, put it up in front of you and say, this is what I'm working for. This is what I'm working toward. And then prepare to be able to do that. I know a lot of people have never been on a vacation. You need that time to express and to connect and to disconnect from your everyday life. It's okay to take some time for yourself. In fact, it's encouraged that you take time for yourself, but make sure that you prepare to where you take time for yourself, you come back, and because you didn't prepare, because you used to it, now you're, oh Lord, I never should have went on that vacation. See, that ain't how it's supposed to work. You go, you do what you got to do, and you enjoy yourself, but you prepare for those times. All right. And then we talked about, like designer clothes, designer bags, and all of that stuff. Again, cars, don't get, I encourage you not to get a designer car that's going to, cost you, crazy amount of money, 80, 100,000, $110,000, unless, you are, buying it cash, or putting down, a lot of cash, or, you leasing it, and you got a plan for that use of that credit, and, it's just, again, it's just different stuff. That could be a part of your tax bill. You leasing that car for the business, or you leasing that car for yourself, and that becomes a part of the taxes, the tax credit and tax benefit of you having that type of vehicle. But again, you have to have a strategy. Do not go into anything without a strategy. Jumps back to the verse. No man starts to build a building without first counting the cost. We have to be those people that have strategy. All right. And then impulse spending. Impulse spending, I'm telling you, this right here is the probably the most difficult thing for people to do, especially when they, in many cases, grew up without having the wealth around that they wish they had, or that they have now. You understand what I'm saying? Some folks go big and buy, bulk up, stock up, not because, it's a train coming or, something bad happening. They just do it because they can. I can do it now. I can buy everything I want now. It's a mentality that each one of us has to make sure that we are paying attention to. If you got to step back a little bit, if you got to, some folks just got to eat before they go to the grocery store so that they ain't shopping hungry. It's things that you have to, you have to prepare yourself for. Know what your limits are. Know where you're falling short. Know where you have difficulty. Realize the things that's going on inside of you, inside of your heart. Realize where you keep falling short. When you realize those things, you're able to handle these pressures, handle these things. You can't shop in order to get your dopamine high, your dopamine fix. Can't do it. You can't do it. You have to find other ways. Go to the gym. That's $25 a month. Go to the gym and get your dopamine fix every day. You feel me? Make it happen. All right. So just try to help you to understand that, contentment is godliness. We have to have that mindset that I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to control myself. Fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, temperance. You hear me? We have to understand and keep ourselves in check. And meekness, we got to keep ourselves in check. All right. And then debt for depreciating assets. And we have to understand that borrowing for items that will lose value over time. Don't do that. Okay. Again, that's why if you can save the money for a car, go and buy a nice cash car, do that. Cars have the fastest depreciation value of anything. Again, you have to make sure that whatever you buy is not going to depreciate over time, which means, which to me, I'm that cat. I'm not gonna pay more than $100 for a meal. I'll try my, I'll take you to a nice spot, baby. But just though, that $100 steakhouse, I don't know about that. We got to, because that's going to depreciate over time. The experience, cool. That was a one-time experience, that I'm going to have to pay for. You feel me? Because I took that out of this pile and in order to make sure that I had this pile set up. So y'all feel me? So make sure that it's not a depreciating asset. And oh man, there's so much into this. So I'm gonna go hit one more section. And then we are talking about who benefits the most from credit. Who benefits the most from credit? This is an interesting section. And so this is where I'll stop for today. But who benefits the most? Because we already talked about the person who is in debt, who is the debtor, who's taking out the credit is not necessarily the person that's going to benefit the most. In fact, the only people that truly benefit from utilizing credit and benefit the most, wealthy. Those folks who are who have money, those folks who are wealthy and financially literate individuals, those folks who understand how to leverage credit. And we'll talk about that too, because some people are taking advantage of it, calling it smart to leverage credit when what they're doing is just creating debt and helping other people create debt. Home ownership, real estate investments, those are great places to utilize credit. Entrepreneurship, again, credit funds a growth of cash flow. And then lastly, students in high return fields. And so we'll talk about that a little more next time. This is your boy, Apostle T. I always, every day, putting it down for the Lord. Check me out. WisdomWorx, WisdomWorx.org. I look forward to seeing you. God bless you. Check me out on Facebook, WisdomWorx 2.0. Bless you. Take care. See you next time.